The Whispering House. Megan had never believed in ghosts. She always thought it was just stories to scare kids. But when her brother, Alex, inherited their grandmother's house, she couldn't help but feel a little uneasy about it. The house was old, crumbling even, standing at the end of a long, narrow road, surrounded by thick trees. The sort of place you'd never think to go unless you had to. It had been years since they'd visited, but Alex had decided it was time to move in, fix it up. The house was part of their family history, after all. And when he asked Megan to help him clean it out, she couldn't refuse. The first time they set foot inside, the air felt heavy. The dust was thick, almost as if the house was trying to swallow them up. But what unsettled Megan the most was the silence. It wasn't the quiet of a forgotten house, it was something else, unnatural, like the house was waiting for something. "Let's just get this over with," Alex said, trying to sound casual, but his voice cracked slightly, betraying his nerves. They began in the attic, where old furniture and boxes were piled high. Megan opened one of the boxes, revealing old family portraits. Faces stared back at her, eyes cold, their expressions hauntingly blank. One portrait, though, caught her attention, a picture of their grandmother, young and smiling. She could almost swear the woman's eyes followed her as she moved the box aside. "Hey, Alex," she called, but he was already moving toward a pile of tattered blankets. "Do you feel that? Like the air's wrong?" Alex shrugged. "It's an old house. The air's probably just stale." But as they moved down into the darker parts of the house, the feeling only grew. It was as if something was moving just beyond the edge of their vision. Shadows shifting when they weren't looking. A soft creaking sound echoed through the halls, and Megan's skin prickled. She turned toward the sound. Nothing. By the time they reached the basement, the house felt colder. The air was thick with a damp, musty scent. Megan felt her heartbeat quicken. She glanced at Alex, but he seemed focused on the boxes of old books stacked near the stairs. "You okay?" he asked, sensing her unease. "Yeah, just," she stopped herself, looking around the dimly lit basement. "Do you hear that?" Alex froze, listening. The faint sound of whispering seemed to rise from the shadows, soft and unintelligible. It was distant at first, almost like the wind, but then it grew louder. It wasn't the wind. "That's not the wind," Megan whispered, her breath catching in her throat. The whispering seemed to come from every corner of the room, growing in intensity. Words, though muffled, sounded like they were speaking to them. Megan's heart raced as the whispers swirled around them, coiling in her ears. Suddenly, the basement door slammed shut, cutting off their escape. Alex jumped back, startled. His face went pale. "What the hell was that?" he muttered, fumbling for the door handle. The whispers were louder now, growing frantic. Megan could feel them, like cold fingers brushing against her skin, wrapping around her chest, tightening. She grabbed Alex's arm. "We need to get out. Now." But Alex, his eyes wide with terror, was staring at something behind her. He tried to speak, but no sound came out. His mouth opened, then closed again, and his body trembled. Megan turned slowly. And there, in the far corner of the basement, standing just beyond the flickering light, was the figure of a woman. Her hair was wild and tangled, her skin pale and sickly. The woman's mouth was open in a silent scream, and the whispers, now distinct, poured from her lips. "Leave. Leave now." Megan didn't wait for another word. She grabbed Alex's arm and yanked him toward the door. But the moment she reached for the handle, the basement light flickered, and the figure lunged forward with an unnatural, jerking motion. The whispers crescendoed into a deafening shriek. The door flew open just as the woman's fingers brushed against Megan's back. She screamed, pulling Alex up the stairs, the house groaning and shaking around them, as though it were alive, angry. They ran out into the cold night, gasping for air, not daring to look back. The door slammed shut behind them with a finality that echoed in their bones. Alex staggered back from the porch steps, trembling. "I don't know what that was. I thought it was just a house." But it's cursed, Megan. This house, it's not empty. Megan didn't reply. She couldn't. Her heart was still racing, her thoughts swirling in a fog. She looked up at the house. The windows were dark, but she could swear she saw the faintest movement, a shadow lingering behind one of the curtains. The whispers hadn't stopped. They were still there, just beneath the silence, waiting.